Volky, hi, bro. Okay, let's talk about today's topic. My history teacher literally said war saved the US economy.
Oh, hi, Jason. And absolutely, yeah. That's like saying crashing your car is good because you paid the repair shop.
Wait, oh my god, what? That actually makes zero sense. But like, factories, jobs, all that.
You were there, my friend, and yes, it's right. On the surface, it looks like war works, but the real story is way darker.
How dark are we talking? Like, economics textbook dark or actually dark? Or something more darker which we don't know, buddy?
Both. We are going to break this down from the Great Depression all the way to today, and you will see what comes around goes around.
Okay, I'm locked in. Someone bring me snacks for this one. I really can't wait to learn it.
Oh, snacks. Haha, no, no, no. Not for me, buddy, but you could have some. Why not? Let's get into today's topic. Is war actually good for the economy? The Great Depression. Imagine losing your job, your savings, and your home, all in the same year. That was the reality for millions of people during the Great Depression of 1929. It was the worst economic collapse in modern history. Full stop. Banks failed across the country like dominoes falling in slow motion. Worldwide GDP dropped by over 15%. That's not a dip, that's a crater. For reference, the brutal 2008 financial crisis only dropped global GDP by about 1%. So 1929 wasn't just bad. It was historically catastrophic on a whole other level. Nobody really knew how to fix it because modern economies had barely just started. This was the economic equivalent of a plane being built while already mid-flight. Governments were experimenting, often getting things badly, terribly wrong. And then World War II showed up, and everything changed overnight. Or at least, that's the story we've all been told. The war economy myth. The popular theory is simple. War, factories booming, people working, economy fixed. And look, on paper it almost makes sense. Government spent like there was no tomorrow. Millions of young people got jobs, either in factories or on the front lines. Infrastructure projects got funded, military contracts flew out the door. Unemployment figures dropped so dramatically it looked like a miracle cure. But here's the thing, they don't tell you in high school. Those numbers were cooked. When soldiers get deployed overseas, governments count them as employed. So technically the unemployment rate goes down, but is that real economic progress? These are people building houses, making food, or creating anything for consumers. They're making warships, bombs, and fighter jets. Stuff designed to destroy things. That brings us to one of the most important economic concepts you'll ever hear. It's called the broken window fallacy, and it's going to change how you see everything. Imagine someone throws a rock through a shop window, annoying, right? Now the shopkeeper has to pay a glazier $500 to fix it. The glazier now has $500 to spend, maybe buys new shoes from a cobbler. And suddenly people say, hey, breaking that window actually helped the economy. But what did the shopkeeper not buy with that $500 they now don? T, have any more? Maybe a new computer for the shop or a better display for their products. The destruction only looks good on paper. In reality, wealth was just destroyed. War is the broken window fallacy on the largest possible scale you can imagine. Yes, GDP goes up, but you. We're literally rebuilding what was just blown up. The real cost of war on an economy. Here's another angle that economists rarely talk about publicly: human capital loss. Every soldier who dies took years of education, training, and experience with them. That. SA worker who will never contribute to any economy ever again. Every factory retooled for tanks is a factory not making fridges or cars. Every scientist working on bombs isn't working on cancer cures or clean energy. The opportunity cost of war is absolutely massive, and barely ever gets discussed. Oh, and yes, war does accelerate some technology, like canned food and the internet. But consumer-driven R&D produces far more innovation than military spending does, because companies compete for your wallet, and that competition drives real progress. When the goal is killing people, innovation has very different priorities, to put it lightly.
Okay, pause. So the broken window thing, that's literally what war is. Just bigger?
Exactly. You're rebuilding what you blew up and calling it economic growth.
But hold on, America did come out of World War II richer, right? Like, objectively.
Yes, but here's the twist. It wasn't the war that did it. It was what came after.
Wait, what came after? I feel like school really left that part out completely.
Bretton Woods, the United Nations, the US basically rewriting the global economy.
So, America used the war to get to the negotiating table and then just won everything?
That's probably the most General Z way to describe Bretton Woods I've ever heard. But yes, what actually saved the US economy? So if the war itself wasn't the magic fix, then what actually turned things around? The answer is geopolitics, strategy, and one very important conference in 1944. At Bretton Woods, 44 allied nations sat down to design the post-war world economy. And the US, as the undisputed winner of the war, got to hold the pen. The US dollar became the world's reserve currency, basically the universal language of money. Every other country needed dollars to trade oil, goods, and commodities globally. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank were born out of this conference. These institutions gave the US enormous economic and political leverage worldwide. Meanwhile, Germany and Japan's factories were rubble, and the US had no competition. American manufacturers basically had the entire Western world as their customer base. Ford, GM, Westinghouse, they weren't just selling to Americans anymore. The post-war boom was real, but it came from economic dominance, not from bombing things. The real purpose of an economy. Here's a question that most economists weirdly never stop to ask themselves. What is an economy even for? Like, what's the actual point of all this? The answer is simple. An economy exists to improve the quality of life for its people. Every job, every product, every business, it should ultimately serve human well-being. By that definition, a job only has value if it adds something that people actually need. Military jobs don't produce consumer goods, and by this logic, they add limited value. Yes, security and defense matter, but most countries are massively over-investing here. The US spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. Let that sink in. That money could build schools, hospitals, fix infrastructure, fund clean energy. Wars don't build wealth, they destroy it, and then we rebuild and call it growth. The real economic lesson of World War II isn't war works, its positioning wins. The US positioned itself at the center of the global economy, and that is what worked. That's the lesson nobody puts on the test, but it's the one that actually matters.
So basically, war didn't save the economy. America just out-negotiated everyone after.
That's it. Military spending can look good on paper, but it's the definition of waste.
And the broken window thing, I'm never going to unsee that. It's everywhere now.
Good. That's the whole point. Once you see these patterns, you can't ignore them.
Alright, if this melted your brain too, smash that like button, you know the drill.
And drop your take in the comments. Do you think military spending is ever worth it?
We'll see you next time. And no, we still don't have snacks for this podcast.
Many thanks for your time to watch us, and please subscribe our channel and hit a like to our video. See you next time on our new episodes